This is Slidell Burton, the esteemed mayor of Steeds Ridge. The head honcho, if you will. And you are going to listen to my favorite show, Let's Find Out with Diego. And that's how it's going to be now, you hear?
Warning. The following program may contain material not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
They say for every light in this world, there is a shadow waiting to reclaim it. We've been told what to believe, what to fear, and exactly where the boundaries of real end. But tonight, we're crossing those lines. From the whispers in the attic to the lights in the desert sky and the entities that walk among us, we are stepping behind the veil. Transmitting from deep within the mountains of West Virginia, it's time to seek the truth. This is Let's Find Out with Diego. And now, here is your host, Diego the Podcaster.
On this episode of Let's Find Out, most authors need a quiet desk and a cup of coffee to get inspired. But our guest takes things to a whole different level. He's recently been continuing a series where he literally embeds himself in the hauntings he writes about. He just got back from writing inside Kentucky's most haunted inn, a place tucked away on the edge of a forest famous for Sasquatch sightings. When he isn't tracking down cryptids, spirits, or running about four-legged phantom hunters, you can find him living out everyone's 1980s fantasy, cruising the streets in his dream car, a pristine 1981 DeLorean. All this plus more. Please welcome our good friend, author Brian Paone. Brian, my friend.
Yes.
Welcome back to Let's Find Out.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Yeah.
Shoot, man,
it was a great time. Last time I was on, it was loads of fun. So I appreciate you having me, do a repeat.
Oh, for sure, man. I've been looking forward to having you back again. And I know at the time you were either in the middle or just coming back or going to Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And man, I mean, you're really putting it out there. Like I said in the intro, and I know sometimes I like to jest a little bit, but you're out of the office. Your office is on the road. Your office, you went to a place where stuff is happening.
Yeah. This all started because I went to the Missouri State Penitentiary as a guest to do an overnight ghost hunt, and I'd never done one before in my life. And I was out there for work, for training, and we were staying there and for quite a bit of time. And we had started to run out of things to do on the weekend. And somebody said, "Hey, the Missouri State Penitentiary does overnight ghost hunts. Do you guys want to do that?" And I had never been on one. Horror is my favorite genre. The haunted house trope in horror is my second favorite trope, next to, possession, like exorcist type stuff. So, and I was like, I can't believe I've never done one of these, but that sounds fantastic. And I went, and I was so enamored by the experience of walking through this old, it's considered one of America's most haunted prisons. And, it's been abandoned now for over 2 decades. And I was so just taken by the spookiness and the vibe, and using actual equipment that I've seen in movies that I didn't know really existed in real life. But now I'm walking around with these meters and stuff. But to top it off, it was the staff. It was the tour guides. They really made my experience, just amazing. I think if the group of people who worked there weren't who they were, it wouldn't have been half as fun. So I was so excited, and I loved it so much that I wanted to know when their next one was. And their next one happened to be the next weekend. But it was hosted by a company called Get Haunted, who's a professional ghost hunting company, and also Nesper, the Lorraine and Ed and Lorraine Warren's company, and they're in charge of their stuff. all the haunted stuff that you see from the Conjuring movies, and they were going to be there with actual artifacts from the Warren Museum. So I went. I said, screw this. I'm going to go and I'm going to do another overnight ghost hunt, and this professional company is going to be there, and I'm going to see some of the things I've seen in the Conjuring movies in real life. And it was that night that I said, "There's a book here." I didn't know what it was. I didn't have a plot. I just knew that this experience, there's a book here. There's something. So, to make a long story short, because we did go over this in depth in the last podcast, but just want to bring people up to speed if they didn't see that one and just wonder how I got to the Ditto house. I contacted Missouri State Penitentiary, and I was asking more just to make sure there was no copyright violations if I used MSP as the location of my book. I just didn't want to get a cease and desist or sued by the state or anything like that. Not only did they love the idea, but the woman who's in charge of the prison, of the penitentiary, invited me to stay there for 8 weeks to write the book. So I wound up staying at Missouri State Penitentiary for eight weekends. I was there. I came in on like a Friday afternoon and I left, Sunday afternoon. And so for 8 weekends, I wrote every word of that first book, which is called These Walls Still Talk. That's the title. And the book is about a bunch of people who go and do an overnight tour there. And, the poop hits the fan, the spirits, the inmates, if you will, decide, they've had enough, and they kind of come out. But the plot line is centered around my main character, and main character's name is Hannah, and she is someone who exists in real life. I was there with her that night that Get Haunted and Nesper were there. So she's a real person. But this is a fictitious version of her, right? These are all fictitious versions of real people. But for These Walls Still Talk, the story is that when she was 21, on her 21st birthday, her friends took her out drinking and then took her to an overnight ghost hunt at MSP. And she steals something from one of the cells. And the spirit that's attached to that item goes home with her and is kind of harassing her. And so she realizes the only way to get rid of this spirit in her life is to return what she stole back to the prison. So she books another overnight, and the whole night she's trying to put it back while the ghosts are all coming out, and they're ticked off that she stole it in the first place. And, some of the ghosts don't want the spirit back in the prison. So they're trying to prevent her from returning it, and others want it back. And so she gets kind of in the middle of this like tug of war during the overnight hunt. I kept a diary of everything paranormal or weird that happened to me. And my editor talked me into publishing, including the diary at the back of the book. So the cool thing about These Walls Still Talk is you read the book, which is 100% fiction. And then when it's over, you have another 20, 25 pages of my diary of everything that really happened to me in real life while I was writing there. I got asked to be I was the guest of honor at a supernatural soiree in New Jersey a couple months after I got back from Missouri. And the guy from Wade, Wade works for Nesper. He's the guy that's in charge of the real Annabelle doll. He's the curator of the actual real Annabelle doll. And he introduced me to Ernie and Denise Pack, who own the Ditto house. And he asked me, he's like, Brian, would you ever want to do a part 2 to These Walls Still Talk? And I was like, nope, absolutely not. It's a one and done. If I tried to do a sequel, it would feel forced. It would feel like I was making a sequel because I want to make a sequel. I was really adamant about not doing a part 2. As we were talking throughout the night, it was brought up, well, instead of a sequel, what about what's called an interconnected standalone? And that's kind of like Nancy Drew, Babysitter's Club, Hardy Boys, Goosebumps, like a Scooby-Doo episode where, well, you could do you're staying in a haunted location, but has nothing to do with the first book, except for the characters. Like characters from the other book will kind of intertwine in and out. And I was like, okay, that I could get on board with, because I'm trying, because now it's not a sequel to the other book, right? You don't have to read them. They are not connected at all, except for Get Haunted, who the company that's in it, they're the company that's there, like controlling the event, and they're the only tie between the two books. And so I was like, yep, let's do that. And Ernie and Denise Pack let me stay at the Ditto House for 3 weeks to write this book. But the cool thing about the Ditto House, and if you Google it, it does come up. It is listed as Kentucky's most haunted house. And it has been so many things in its history. It was a Civil War hospital. It was a post office. It was a brothel. It was a bed and breakfast at one point. It was just a pure restaurant at one point. It was a train ticket station. It was, I mean, it has gone through so many iterations, that house. But it's surrounded by Fort Duffield, which has one of the most Bigfoot Sasquatch sightings on the East Coast. And so not only are they dealing with living in this house that's super haunted, but the whole town sees Sasquatch like in the woods, like all the time. It's just so common that it's just a normal thing for them. And I was like, how can I say no to this? Like, this is like wild, right? It's like the Bermuda Triangle over there. What I wanted to make sure was that I didn't write These Walls Still Talk again. Like, I didn't write the same story, right? Here I am in a haunted location. I'm staying there to write. I didn't want to fall into that pitfall where all I'm doing is recycling the first book. And this is where Bigfoot comes in. I was like, this is amazing. I can now, so Unpacking the Ditto House, which is the title of this book, is 50% a good haunted house story, but it's also 50% a cryptid story, which was really cool because I've never really been into cryptids. Like, they've never been a thing, but I learned so much about them while I was there, and it had experiences, and it was so much fun to write about a phenomenon that I don't know too much about, but I had to research. So I don't know how many haunted house paranormal ghost books are out there where Bigfoot is a main character, so I think it's kind of a unique twist on the haunted house, kind of tale. So Ernie and Denise, they charge $500 a night for people who want to stay there, because it is an inn. It's it is called the Ditto House Inn. They charge $500 a room a night, and people they're sometimes booked up months in advance because a lot of ghost hunters stay there, because they want to stay in the famous Ditto House. And right, they gave me a room. I got to stay in what's called the murder room. Because in 1903, there was a traveling salesman who was killed in that room because he was caught cheating at a card game. And his ghost is one of the ones that is seen the most in the house. His name is Silas Rodman. So they let me stay in the murder room for 3 weeks. So I feel super fortunate with these two books, the way that my career went, because being able to spend 8 weekends in the Missouri State Penitentiary and then 3 weeks in the Ditto House, where these locations are some people's mecca to get to. I mean, there's people who would die to just do one night in the Ditto House, and I got to stay there for 3 weeks and write this book, And again, I kept a diary of everything paranormal or unexplainable that happened to me, and again, it is at the back of the book. So, when the book ends, then my diary exists.
3 weeks is a long time to stay in a place that's so active with everything but extraterrestrials at this point.
Yeah, right.
And I know that you talked about having the stories towards the end of things that happened to you while you were there.
Yeah.
Outside of the story itself. I really want to get into that.
Okay.
But before, no pun intended, because I saw the word and now it's stuck in my brain. We have a lot to unpack here. And
no pun intended. Right. I love that.
Right. But let's do something really quick, because this is going to be something right here. I'm looking at everything, but unrelated subject.
Mm-hmm.
How's our DeLorean doing?
She's happy that the warm weather has come in. She can spread her tires, because I don't somewhere around early November or so, a little after Halloween, I garage her and winterize her, and then she doesn't usually come out again until March, April. We've had a lot of rain recently, so unfortunately She hasn't gotten out too much, but yes, shiny and fueled up and ready to go.
And she'll be there at Fright Reads this year, correct?
Yeah, and when I bring it to conventions and stuff, I do let people sit in it for photos, which is kind of neat because I get a lot. I get very common is this is the first time I've ever seen one in my life. I've never seen one in person, and then they get to sit in it for a photo, and it's like not only do I get to see one, but now I'm sitting in one, and that's I love like that reaction. I love seeing people just get so like geek out over it, where they like can't even believe that it's there. That's man, I could watch that all day long.
And I can honestly tell you that first day where I met you was also the first time I ever seen a DeLorean in person, like just inches away from me, and that was pretty amazing. So I can understand why you like seeing people's reactions to seeing something. It's like almost, it's literally meeting a celebrity on four wheels.
No, it is. It's like I used to joke, back when I got it, and I would say, driving around in it is kind of like if I had like Justin Timberlake in my passenger seat and everybody could see him. People just have this like it's almost this reaction to it. Like this, photos. Videos, they want selfies, they want to, I have people roll at stoplights, roll down their window to yell at me, to talk to me, like thumbs up, beeping at me when I'm driving. Yeah.
Well, funny you mentioned Justin Timberlake because it's going to be May here soon.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that song. It's going to be me, or it says it's going to be May. Okay. I was like, maybe I'm a little too old, but you got it. No. I don't have the vibrato that Justin Timberlake has, but it's there. It's there. So now, let's get into unpacking the Ditto house because, like I said, there's a lot to talk about, and that one turned out to be your 13th book, correct?
That is my 13th. Yes, right. Lucky number 13, I guess. Right.
I was gonna say, it's kind of like, was it in the stars? It's just by happenstance.
It's totally by happenstance. Yeah. Like no, in fact, it shouldn't have been because I had an idea for my next book when the Ernie and Denise, presented me the opportunity to stay there. Like I already had the next book, an outline was already being made. Like that was not supposed to be,
I mean, it worked out.
Yeah, 13. We joked about that, No,
I think it's great. I think it's a little more. It gives it a bonus, so to say. So, but before we begin talking about unpacking the Ditto house, we do have a trailer.
Yes,
we're gonna play right now. Now, if you want to narrate through it, you can. But let's let it play through, and then we'll go from there.
It has narration on it, so I don't want to talk over the voiceover of the trailer. So,
all right. So this is the unpacking the Ditto house coming at you.
Some houses remember the people who died there, but the Ditto house collects them. When Denise, grieving the death of her daughter, hears a familiar child's laughter from the empty rooms of her new home, she is convinced her child is among the spirits. As the activity escalates, the forest beyond the house stirs with ancient watchers. Denise calls on paranormal investigators Get Haunted to help reset the balance of the Ditto house. Caught between whispering phantoms and the creatures that walk unseen between trees, the Get Haunted crew must learn who and what to trust, even if it's not each other.
Denise got her hands full on this one.
Yeah, she I put her through the ringer. I definitely, I told them too. I was like, look, if you guys, if we're doing this, I'm gonna mess both of you guys up pretty hard. And they were like, yes. Ernie was just like, we had like when I first got there, we kind of we sat around the dining room table and we brainstormed a couple parts of the book, ideas that I had, and it was so funny to hear them they wanted me to get more violent. Like, no, I want, if I get killed, I want to just be like, just ripped apart. And they're like, oh, this is so great. It's like, so they were great hosts. Couldn't have asked for nicer people. and the book comes out next month, so it's not out yet. And we are having a massive book release party. It's a 2-day book release party. Day one is Friday, May 14th. And that is a ghost tour of the Ditto House, meet and greet with all of Get Haunted, with me, with Ernie and Denise. And then day two is we are going squatching at Fort Duffield with Greg Yost, who goes by the nickname Squatch Man. And we are doing a full in the woods at Fort Duffield Bigfoot hunt. So people can go and do one or one or the other, or you can do both. But it's Friday and then Saturday. So Friday is the ghost tour at the Ditto House, the meet and greet, and then Saturday is squatching at Fort Duffield. And tickets for those, the ghost tour meet and greet, it's only $20. That is a $20, and then squatching on Saturday at Fort Duffield, I think, is $50. I think, like, if not, it's really, really close. So, I mean, we're talking $70 to do both days, and tickets are available on my home screen of my website, which is brianpaone.com. So, like, my name.com, literally. I think it's in your ticker too. That's going by.
Yep.
If you go to my site, the banner at the top is click here for tickets, and it's going to bring you right to the ticket form, and you can choose which day. We have sold quite a bit. Rob from Get Haunted has been keeping the tally of the ticket sales, and we recently just had like a meeting, and we are very, very happy with the amount of tickets, and we will have a cap. They will shut off at some point, just because you don't want 100 people in the Ditto House at the same time, So they are limited availability, and Fort Duffield, there's a limit too, just because we don't want to lose people in the woods. We need to be able to have everybody, there. But the Fort Duffield event, it's like a 6-hour, we're doing like a six hour like squatching. So it's going to be pretty intense. So if anybody wants to come to Kentucky and see the Ditto House real and do a ghost tour that is going to be led by Ernie and Denise, that's perfect. And if anybody's ever felt the need or wanted to come hunt Bigfoot, Saturday night is your night to do it. And it's the book release party too. So like we're going to have some special things. We have some special guests. The book will be there. I'll be signing copies. I'll be talking about the book and bringing people around to like places I wrote, because for that book, like for the Missouri State Penitentiary book, for These Walls Still Talk, I wrote that whole book inside MSP, right? I never left the property when I wrote. But for the Ditto House book, because so much of the book takes place in the woods in Fort Duffield and also inside the house, I wrote in both locations. I'd write for a couple days inside the Ditto House, and then if it was nice out, I would take my laptop and I'd go into the woods at Fort Duffield and I'd write right out there, and so I kind of wrote in both locations. So I got that vibe and ambiance, especially since the book covers both locations, so it was cool waking up every morning being like, all right, do I want to stay in the house and write, or do I want to go out into, be surrounded by Bigfoot and write, do I want to be around ghosts today, or do I want to be around Sasquatch today?
You kind of beat me to the punch. I was going to ask you a question similar to that, because when you're writing on location, that sounds pretty awesome. Something different being at home, the comforts of your own home. You can start and stop whenever you want to.
Mm-hmm.
When you're at these locations, sometimes you can't control what activity happens or does not happen.
Yeah.
And then I know that you mentioned also that you saved some of these stories towards the end of the book about what really went on and your experiences. But if you're balancing being a ghost hunter with a discipline of being a novelist,
mm-hmm.
How much of distraction was the activity to you, and how much temptation was it to put down that pen, just go out and investigate?
I found that anytime something more than just a bang from upstairs happened, I would go investigate. And some nights that would take us through the entire night, and I wouldn't write again that day, because there were some nights in the Ditto House when the activity was just, you didn't want to ignore it. And Ernie and Denise, they work full time. They have full time jobs, and they would come home from work. And if the house started to act up and started doing its thing, there was some nights where we were up until like 2 a.m, like watching, recording, listening. And, I hadn't written a word in 8 hours because the house was just, vibrating. So, and then there was some days that nothing, then the house was quiet. It was, super, super quiet. And I would be able to get 10,000 words written that day, but there was other days where I found I only got 3,000 words written because the house was just, I kept going to look, what was that, and you kind of go down that rabbit hole. I would say when I stayed at Missouri State Penitentiary to write These Walls Still Talk, I didn't ever feel that I was going to not make the deadline, because Sheila gave me eight weekends. Right, that's what she gave me to write the book. I always felt ahead of the curve. I always felt like I was moving right along. I never worried that I wasn't going to finish the book in those 8 weekends. I knew that I didn't want to go home with the book unfinished because I wanted to be able to tell people honestly, as part of my marketing, that every word of this book was written in MSP. I didn't want to have to say, the last 20 pages was written in my bedroom because I couldn't finish it in time. Right. But at MSP, I did not feel that I was ever in jeopardy of missing the deadline. At the Ditto house, I would say the last 4 days I was there, I started to get scared. I started going, oh man, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to pull this off. And I wound up finishing a day early. They gave me to my deadline that I had to leave the Ditto house was on a Sunday, and I happened to finish the book on Saturday. So I was worried the last few days, but actually wound up coming in a day early. And the reason why is because I would go off and investigate every time something, happened in the house. Where at MSP, I tended to write to a certain point. And then when I hit that point for the day, then I would like save everything I'd written, and then I would go off and investigate. But with the Ditto house, it was like getting text messages all day long where you have to keep looking at your phone, right? And you don't get anything done. I mean, that's how I felt at the Ditto house. It was, I'd write 4 pages and I'd hear somebody walking around upstairs, and I knew I was the only one alone at home. And I'd go back and I'd write 4 pages, and then you'd hear voices somewhere else in the house. And then you'd write 4 pages and you'd hear like rocks falling down the stairs. Like the house is, when the house is active, it's coming at you from all angles. The Ditto house, that's what makes that house so like unique. Like it's either all or nothing in that place. You don't just get like 1 or 2 things in a day. You either get nothing, and then you look like a liar that it's haunted because literally nothing, or you get a day when it's acting like the Insidious movies, where everywhere you turn, there's something going on. There's some vibration or energy in that building that's just crazy.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there was a particular time of the day where it'd be more active than others. I mean, you could probably go days without nothing happening. I guess
I'll tell you
depends.
I will tell you what is scary about the Ditto house is it does not care whether it's noon or midnight. There is that whole like myth where, the sun goes down and then the ghosts come out to play. It does not apply at the Ditto house. It could be 1 p.m., sunny, birds chirping, and you could see something like shoot through the parlor. Like it does not matter. That Ditto house does not care. And I think that's what made it so scary for me, because it doesn't give you any chance to like catch your breath and like relax, and Ernie and Denise went to work every day. So I was home. I was there alone while they were working, and I was hearing things in the house, and I'd be texting Denise like, when you coming home? There's something walking upstairs. Like you'd hear like boots clomping on the hallway above me, and I know they didn't have any guests while I was there. They actually, because I said that, I said earlier that you can book a room there, you can stay. And they did not have any guests during my time there. There was a group that wanted to stay, that wanted to rent it out for the weekend. And Ernie and Denise asked me if I would mind if people were there while I wrote. And I said, absolutely not. That would be great. But I think they told them that somebody was there doing a project and they just booked it for a different weekend. So nobody was in the house but me, Ernie, and Denise for those 3 weeks. So when they weren't home and I was hearing like man's boots, like soldiers' boots walking up and down the hallway above me. I mean, at 2 PM, right? Sun's out. So there's no like security in there that, oh, well, nothing creepy is going to happen because it's 2 PM. Bull crap. The house doesn't care. It does not care. So the giggling children is probably the scariest, one of the scariest things that I heard. Yeah.
Hold on. Hold the phone. Because
Mhm.
I can see what that would be. Well, let me add to this, since you were there for about 3 weeks, and some days are very heavy with activity, some
Mhm.
days were not, but mostly things were happening. During your time there, were there particular spirits that would repeat themselves? And when I mean, I'm gonna give this spirit a generic name. I'm gonna call him Frank.
Okay.
Would Frank come in on a Tuesday, but you won't see him until Friday, or were they all just different?
So they see the same kind of apparitions over and over and over, and they've given them nicknames.
Mm.
All right. So they have what they call the peaker. He's a spirit that stays in the Riverview Rooms bathroom, and he's known to look in. When you have a door open, when you open a door, there's that space, that gap. He's known to be in there, and you can see his eye. And then when you catch him, he kind of like goes like this, and then he comes back out. And so they call him the peeker because it looks like he's peeking out in between the doors. And then there's Silas. He's the traveling salesman, the one that got murdered in the room that I slept in. They call it the murder. All the rooms are named at the Ditto house. And it's named by Ernie and Denise. They've named all the rooms. And the rooms are named the same way in my book, which is cool. So if you read Unpacking the Ditto house and then want to go stay there overnight, the room names I kept the room names as they exist in real life, right? The Silas is seen the most. He's the one that was actually murdered in there. They did a bunch of research on him, and it sounds like, from what they gathered, was he was accused of cheating and was killed because of it. But they had some reports and interviews, I guess, when it happened, that it looks like now Silas wasn't cheating. It was like he was wrongfully accused and then lost his life over it. So that might be why he's seen a lot. But Silas, Denise tells stories where she turns the corner from the dining room into the kitchen to go get a Dr. Pepper, and he'll be standing there next to the refrigerator. And he's always looks the same. He's in all brown. He's in a brown suit, brown shoes. He's wearing a brown hat. Businessman, very traveling salesman-y looking, and Silas is seen all over the house. The giggling children is very common. There's also a lot of reports of people who have stayed there of the feeling of hearing the giggling children and then the weight of them getting into bed with you, like the mattress pushes down. Or people will wake up and there'll be a child at the end of the bed and it'll giggle and disappear. This is stuff straight out of horror movies, and it happens there. Like I said, I heard the giggling children 3 times during the time I was there. Another thing that's common that I heard is a man and a woman arguing, but just voices. No, you can't see them, but they're in a heated argument. But it sounds like it's fuzzy, where you can't, you wouldn't be able to replay. You wouldn't be able to tell somebody what they're saying, but they're definitely heated. And it always comes from upstairs in the ladies' room. And I heard it once when I was there. And I went into the ladies' room when I was hearing it, and there was nobody in the room. I mean, it's not like you walk in and you see 2 ghosts arguing, right? I mean, it's just the voice. You just hear them. Back when it was owned by a family in the 1800s, the kids would entertain themselves by playing a game where they would roll rocks down the staircase, and whoever could get their rock to get to the closest to the bottom without falling off the staircase would win. Kind of like our version of shuffleboard, or whatever it is. And one of the most common things that they get now is we'll be sitting there and we'll hear rocks coming down the stairs. But the crazy thing is when you go look, the rocks are there. These are rocks from outside that you can pick up, and they have a cabinet where they keep the rocks. I should have sent you the photos. You could have put them up in the show, but We came home one night from dinner and there was a rock from outside put on the couch in the parlor. It wasn't there when we left. Nobody was staying there. The house was locked. Where did that rock come from? And you'll be sitting eating dinner in the dining room or whatever, and you'll hear the rocks ping pong pong ping pong 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 down the stairs. And sure enough, you'll go and there'll be a rock there. There'll be a rock at the bottom of the stairs. Like, where did that rock come from? Where did right? It's, and you can hold it, you can pick it up. It's tangible. Like, it doesn't like disappear or like, like shimmer out of existence. Like you like they keep them. They have a collection of them that they say thank you. So Ernie and Denise, they thank, whoever, like, okay, thank you for my rock. I'm going to put it over here. And I was sitting there writing once. I immediately did a TikTok video right after it happened. And everyone tells me that if you watch the video, you can see absolute fear in my face. I was writing, I was home alone, and the staircase was behind me. And sure enough, I'm all by myself writing, 3 PM. I was like, oh, here we go. Like, the kids are throwing rocks at me. And so that's some of the stuff that happens there.
Did you keep any of those rocks with you? Bring them back home?
No, I don't. I want to leave them there. Ernie and Denise, I think it belongs to the house. But
Okay.
The weird thing is that the rocks that are thrown down the stairs are out. Those rocks are outside their house. They exist outside. It's not like they're a very specific type of rock, that you would buy at like Home Depot or whatever to like do, beautification of your lawn. Those are the rocks being thrown. But how would they, like, their big thing is we don't know how they're getting inside if they're physical and everything's locked up. No windows are open, no doors are open. How, like, that's their biggest question. It's not who's throwing it. It's how are they getting them inside the house? And like I said, I was there. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I'll send you a picture of the rock on the couch later. That's crazy. When we left for dinner, I know there was no rock on that parlor couch because that's a couch that we sit in to like tie our shoes to leave, and when we came home, it was placed right on one of the cushions of the couch. So
that's the strangest thing I ever heard. Normally, if I hear
it's
something
so
about,
crazy,
right? I've never heard about. I mean, rock throwing. Yeah, if you're out in the woods and you have a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, maybe throw something at you.
Yeah,
but not inside of a house, and it's not coming through the wall. The windows aren't breaking.
no,
It just materializes and goes down the stairs.
Yeah. So you don't ever see it materialize, right? You hear it falling down the stairs, and then you go over, and there it is. So yeah, that's their biggest. We don't know. Like, we can't figure this out.
No, and I don't think
we set up cameras. I brought my my Blink system. Amazon. I set up 4 cameras for the 3 weeks that I was there, and me and Ernie were getting crazy readings in the nursery off the Blink camera, like just getting these, like, it sounded like someone playing like a kid xylophone, chimes, ding ding ding, and then we would go in the room, and you couldn't hear it. You could only hear it through the camera. Just so weird. So weird.
That is, and was interesting because you're so accustomed to writing this type of subjects in your books, and it can get quite intense in a way to where maybe you get a little more paranoid, more than the normal person like myself would, or you have activity. People tell you their stories. You get emails. You read other books as well.
Right.
Which brings me to the 14th book.
Yes.
Because now you're doing something similar, but you're kind of, I'm not saying toning it down, but it's kind of maybe a de-stressor because now you get to lighten the moment a little bit.
Yeah. So this is book number 14, which is coming out the same exact day as Unpacking the Ditto House. So the book release party at the Ditto House in Fort Duffield, it's like a dual book release party. We're doing Ditto House and Scary Place. And it came about because I have a daughter. Her name is Edelweiss. And I wrote These Walls Still Talk. That's the Missouri State book when she was 7. She's 9 now. And when it came out, she wanted to read it so bad, right? Because she knew her dad had stayed in this haunted prison. And I said, no, you're 8 now. I was like, you're not ready. I said, but you can read my diary, because there's nothing in my diary. It's written like a diary, like Dear Diary, today a ghost chased me down the hall. she read the diary. And then when I went to Kentucky to stay at the Ditto house, when I came back, she wanted to read like, some of my chapters. Right. And I was like, no, baby. I was like, you still can't. I just don't, these aren't for you. Right. But then she was telling me how all of her friends are really, really into horror and really into ghost stories. And her friends, she told all of her friends what I did. And I was like, why don't I write a book for that 9 to 12 age group? Right. That's a horror book, but it's definitely designed for them. But I put a spin on it. The main characters in this are all the pets of ghost hunters. And every time their humans go investigate, they put them in a pet boarding place. And the animals are like, man, we want to do what our humans do, right? We want to go hunt ghosts. So they break out of the boarding. If you've ever brought your pet to stay at a Borders, they have like playtime outside in the yard. So they plan that when they're going to distract the workers, and they're going to get through it. They know that there's a weakness in part of the fence. And because across the street from the Borders is what they think is a haunted house. So they escape and they go into this haunted house, and it finds out it is haunted, but it's only haunted by the ghosts of animals. So there isn't a human in this book at all. So the ghost hunters are the pets of real human ghost hunters, and they go and hunt animal ghosts. So the haunted house is only, there's a goldfish ghost, there's a bunch of dogs, there's some cats, there's a bat, but they're, no humans at all. And it's very much like a Scooby-Doo meets Paw Patrol. I mean, I really wanted that vibe. It's spooky, but it's funny, and it's perfect for that, I'd say 8 to 12 age group. And when I was looking through the front cover, Denise from the Ditto house, she's an artist. She's a fantastic artist. And she designed the front cover. She painted it on actual matte canvas and UPS'd it to me, and I scanned it, high res scanned it, and that's the front cover. So Denise kind of was able to get her fingers on, having production of the Scary Place. So it's cool to have, some tying it all together,
And talking about Scary Place, we don't go ahead and play the trailer for that now, and then the listeners of Let's Find Out can get the full measure of what it is that you're talking about. And we're going to follow up with some stuff because it reminded me of something. So before I keep talking, I'm going to go ahead and play the trailer.
All right.
Here we go.
Loves staying at the pet hotel. But across the street is a creepy house on the hill. The dogs call it the Scary Place, and they're pretty sure it's haunted. Leo and his pet friends do something very brave and very risky. Sneak out, cross the road, and enter the Scary Place. Somewhere in the house, something far worse than they ever imagined waits for the clock to strike midnight so it can awaken. And it knows Leo is there. Will Leo and his friends escape before the clock's final chime? Or will the Scary Place keep them forever?
Man, that already puts me in a good mood.
No, it's fun. It was so much fun to write because it was a lot of fun because I didn't have to worry about the scare, right? I didn't have to worry about scaring the reader. This was supposed to be fun and funny, and I want the kids to read it and just enjoy it, and not be up that night because they're afraid to sleep, right? There's nothing in it that's going to keep anybody awake at night. So it's definitely, like I said, that Scooby-Doo kind of, cartoony horror,
And that was the thing I was talking about when I was growing up, and I think Hanna-Barbera was very famous for doing such things, and they would replicate it with different teams, but they always had a gang of teenagers, either were in a van or some vehicle,
right?
And they had a dog or some other animal with them. But this, you went a different direction, is no, humans are not really involved in this.
No.
All animals.
Yep. The only humans that are in it are the people at the boarding place. And the animals can't understand them. So in the Peanuts, when the teacher talks and it's wah 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 wah, because the animals only speak animal when they, there's no real understanding. So the humans really have no play in it.
Now with this one, because it's you're putting in the elements of the spirits and kind of horrorish, making it easier for a young reader to not to feel too uncomfortable, or their parents say this is inappropriate for the child.
Right.
You kind of hit a sweet spot there.
Yeah. There's nothing. I mean, if it was a movie, it would be G. I mean, it is very very American Tale type, Don Bluth style. If you remember like Last Unicorn or something like that.
I do remember American Tail.
Yeah,
was it Fievel? Yeah, the little mouse guy. Yeah.
Right.
That movie was big at that time. Way back, and nobody's remade it as far as I know.
No. Yeah, Secret and Nim was another big one for me growing up, but I think I borrowed from that a bit while I was writing. So,
and sometimes things that we grew up with, tend to stay in our mind, and we kind of use those things as an inspiration to write our own things. Or
absolutely.
With music, if you might have been influenced by Ace Frehley, you might have a couple of Ace Frehley things in your music at all. But let me ask you this, because 13th and 14th book.
Yeah.
My follow-up question is going to be very easy.
Okay.
Are you going to rest?
No, I'm actually on chapter 3 right now of what will be book number 15. So no.
Oh my goodness.
It doesn't stop. Yeah.
All right. Well, have you revealed in any other show what you're going to be writing about? Or is it still a secret?
Yeah. No, I can. I'm taking a stab at my first Christmas Hallmarky rom-com.
All right. Now
I'm taking a breath from the deep, heavy, psychological, speculative fiction, and I've never written anything like this before. I've never written a happily ever after ending. I've never, I'm testing it to see if I can. If it's a disaster, then I will abandon it and move on to because my next book after this one is going to be like a neo-noir dark fantasy, kind of like if you remember the movie Dark City from the 90s. So it's going to be like a Silence of the Lambs meets Dark City, and that will be my next one. So I'm going right back into the deep, heavy crap after I write this Christmas rom-com.
No, listen, don't underestimate the power of rom-com. And I'm going to tell let me tell the listeners this, and you as well, because we're friends now, and I can admit these things. Every once in a while, the wife and I, because you get tired of watching the same stuff, right? So you go around and looking either on Prime or wherever.
Yep.
There's always a season where they have a lot of romantic type movies. Right. It's either Christmas with the Prince or I Kissed This Guy and
Hot Frosty.
Mario Lopez Christmas, Joey Lawrence Christmas. It's one of those kind of things, Lifetime or Hallmark Channel stuff. But I think you can do it, man. Don't abandon. If it's a disaster, look, this show is a disaster. I haven't abandoned it. It's almost going in this 4 years, so you just keep going at it, brother.
Yeah. No, I realized 2 years ago that one of my guilty pleasures is those holiday rom-coms, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a stab at writing one. So
go for it, man. And if it winds up being on Prime as a movie, I'm the first person who's going to download and watch it.
Nice.
Yeah, man. So
love it.
So with that now, are you doing any planning on? Because we talked about your music career on the prior show.
Yep.
Are you gonna take a stab at writing more music, or are you gonna hold off on that for a while?
I am getting closer and closer every month, it seems now, to maybe trying to put a band back together. I was in bands for 20 years, so it's a huge part of who I am. I've been out of it now for 10. 2016. Yeah, 2016 was when I got out of music. So it's been 10 years. So I was in it for 20, been out for 10, and I'm starting to get that itch again. I'm starting to get that, man, I miss being in a room with, 4 other dudes playing instruments, writing songs. And even if you go play the crappy dive bar down the street, I miss just being on stage and creating. So, I wasn't ready up until now. but I can feel myself going, like being pulled there again.
Yeah, I can tell by your body language, man. I think it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I see it, man. And now, for the ultimate question.
Yeah.
For our good friends and listeners of Let's Find Out, they want to learn more about you, where you're going to be this year, and they want to get a hands-on, either a downloaded copy or a physical copy of your books. Where can they go find out?
So all of my books are available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. I know a lot of people would rather listen than read because we're so crazy in our schedule and commutes and people, house chores and stuff like that. But all of my books are available in all three formats, everywhere books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, Books A Million, anywhere that any bookstore that has a website. I'm searchable and findable. And that is the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, Italy, Germany. Yeah, I think that's the 6. Yeah, I think that covers everything. So, yep. And my website, right? So if you go to brianpaone.com and any paperbacks bought from my website, I sign them. And they don't come, and they're not pre-signed sitting in the box. I actually sign it and, I personalize it to that purchase. So
awesome. You got that connection with your fans, and you're worldwide now, brother. So get ready when these books come out. And good luck to you on the book release party. And be careful after when you go squatching. And once you release number 15, and if you get that band back together, come back on the show and we'll talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Copyright Diego the Podcaster. All content for Let's Find Out is the property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out with Diego is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.